Davy Crockett made his name as a frontiersman and expert marksman in Tennessee, where his legendary hunting skills and charismatic personality earned him the nickname King of the Wild Frontier. As a young man, he gained recognition for his remarkable ability to hunt bears, or bars, as you might hear in his song, claiming to have killed 105 bears in a single season. His reputation grew further when he served as a scout under General Andrew Jackson from 1813 to 1814, his knowledge of the wilderness and his leadership skills making him an invaluable asset. Now, this popularity led to a successful political career in Tennessee, where he served 3 terms in the U.S. House of Representatives, and Crockett became known for his colorful personality and his eventual opposition to President Jackson's Indian Removal Act, which we'll talk some more details about that. A stance that showed his independent thinking, but ultimately contributed to his political demise. Now, Crockett became a folk hero through his storytelling abilities and larger-than-life persona. He embraced his public image, but eventually left Tennessee from the very location that Jen and I visited, and the location that we're going to talk about today. Welcome to Talk with History. I'm your host, Scott, here with my wife and historian, Jen.
Hello.
On this podcast, we give you insights to our history-inspired world travels, YouTube channel journey, and examine history through deeper conversations with the curious, the explorers, and the history lovers out there. Now, Jen, before we get kicked off, it's been a couple weeks since we've technically recorded, because we try to record in batches. So I have a couple shout-outs, because we got another podcast supporter who's supporting us through the historyroadtrip.com.
Very cool.
So the history, if you don't know, the History Road Trip is our newsletter where we kind of go, I try to go deeper into kind of our history adventures. I give some links and Google Map, kind of resources and stuff like that to kind of help you, give you a resource if you ever wanted to go visit the locations that we visit. And through there, if you want to support the podcast, you want to support us and what we do and all the history stuff and us sharing this, you can become a member over there. And there is some occasional exclusive content. But we had Calvin Gifford. He signed up to support us at thehistoryroadtrip.com. And, thank you, Calvin. He comments on a lot of our videos. I think he might even be a YouTube channel member where you can get early access to our videos. So I just wanted to thank Calvin for that, because he's been a huge supporter of the show. He found us the newsletter over at thehistoryroadtrip.com, and I'll flash there's a link in the show notes, or I'll flash it up on the screen. And again, if you want to go over there, we try to kind of put out some occasional newsletter stuff. We are, kind of, little spoiler alert, we are working on a documentary. So we've started one, and I'm going to try to put out kind of my journey in doing kind of a first documentary over there, a little bit of behind the scenes type stuff. So if you're interested in that, I got my first little behind the scenes, just me speaking my mind after our first day of kind of testing, filming, stuff like that. So check us out. But thank you, Calvin, so much for supporting the podcast. Thank you so much for supporting the show. If you want to just leave like a one-off tip for us, you can go to talkwithhistory.com and find that support link. If you want some more resources, some occasional exclusive content, you can find us over at thehistoryroadtrip.com, and you can find all the links in the show notes.
We're very appreciative. All this goes right back into the channel.
So Jen, us being Tennesseans now, right? I can kind of consider this like our second home state. I'm originally from California, but we've lived in Tennessee once before, and we're going to call Tennessee home for a little while. We went and visited basically the last place that Davy Crockett lived in Tennessee.
Yeah, his last home.
Yeah.
Because he really didn't live in Texas. He went to Texas and made it to the Alamo, and they didn't think they were going to stay there. Now, there is a good argument that Davy Crockett was going to move to Texas. He had went out to fight for independence for Texas. His idea was that they were going to win, and then he was going to be getting land as part of that fight, and then he was going to move his family.
I mean, you think about it. He's a frontiersman. Mm-hmm. There's another frontier in Texas, and so he's probably going down there to, fight with people that he knew down there and try to stake his claim out there.
That was the plan. But David Crockett, he's probably one of the most famous people from Tennessee, right? Like the whole song about him. And so it's just neat to go and visit a place that's associated with him. Now, you have to remember, he's born in 1786. So he's born 10 years after America has declared their independence, and really just 5 years after the Constitution. We're in 1781 after they won Yorktown. Not even, like, they're in the midst of writing constitutions and everything. So he's born at that time, and he's born in Tennessee, but they quickly moved to Pennsylvania. His father has many children, and his father just keeps getting in debt and in debt. And what they did at the time is you could indenture your children out to work off your debt. And that's what happened to David Crockett. He was indentured out. The people who had them work for them were very nice to him, but he was just sick and tired of doing it.
Now, was he born in Tennessee?
He was born in Franklin, which was the state of Franklin at the time.
So, which is now actual Franklin, Tennessee?
Yeah, which is Franklin, Tennessee.
And if you're not familiar with the Nashville area, so Franklin is just south of Nashville. Franklin's kind of like the bougie part of Nashville. Now, right? Like that's where there's movie stars and country music stars, right? I think Justin Timberlake might have a home out there, but that's interesting.
Yeah. So that's where he learns to live off the land, because as an indentured servant, basically he's fending for himself as he's working someone else's land. So that's where he learns to hunt, make his own clothing, and shoot, all those things, camp. And so that's where he learns his self-survival, self-preservation. And he basically just walks off at 16 years old. He's like, I'm not doing this anymore for my dad. I'm good. I'm done.
So he started when he was like 10, did it for a few years. And then he was like in 16, he was like, yeah, I know enough. I'm going to go kill some bears and do my own thing. So I know. So he does get moved into Tennessee, and he gets associated with the War of 1812, and he helps Andrew Jackson, War of 1812. He goes down to New Orleans, and he does show people how to scout. He does show people how to hunt. He is very good at living off the land. So he grows into infamy, and he's a very good storyteller. He likes to hunt bears. He likes to hunt any kind of wild animal at the time. And he's wearing the coonskin hat. He's wearing the buckskins like a Native American. And so he becomes synonymous with that persona. But he's elected to government in 1821, representing Tennessee. So you think about it too. I mean, he's not even 40 yet, right? So he's been doing his frontiersman Tennessee thing for 30 plus years, 35, 36 years. He's born in 1786. Yep. And so he's been around, and you think about the time. This is what I love about him, and the fact that multiple things say that he was the storyteller. Mm-hmm. That goes a long way at that time, because not everybody's reading, not everybody's literate necessarily, right? That's just, there was no, like, newspapers weren't all over the place, just because it's early America, right? It's largely frontier out there. So who's going to get well known? Somebody who's good at what he does, and somebody who's a great storyteller.
Great storyteller who is touching a lot of people in a wartime situation. So he's kind of like helping lead War of 1812. And so all these people go back home and said, let me tell you about this guy who helped us, who wore these skins, these buck skins, and he was killing bears, and he told stories about domesticating bears, and people just like, what? And he would wear a coonskin hat, like he would skin a raccoon and wear the hat with the tail on the back. He's married first to Polly in 1806, and she dies in 1815. And this is before he moves to the Rutherford cabin that we visited. And he has 3 children with her. And then he marries a widow, Elizabeth, and she has 2 children of her own. And then they have 3 children together. So Davy Crockett has 6 children of his own, but 8 total with Elizabeth's children. So those are the 8 children who are at the Rutherford cabin. When we go to the cabin, and I talk about, it's 4 rooms, But the parents are downstairs on a main room because they're not climbing the stairs up and down all day. And the 8 kids are figuring out how to be in one room upstairs.
Yeah. And now Rutherford, Tennessee isn't really it's actually closer to Memphis than it is to Nashville. So it's kind of not quite due north, kind of northeast of where we are in Memphis. So it's a little bit further west from Nashville. So he kind of kept moving west, which again kind of makes sense for the time, kind of keep going out on the frontier. And that's the direction to go.
Yeah, he was very much keep settling, keep getting more land. Yes, it's considered Northwest Tennessee if you're looking at Tennessee, but for us, it's east because we're the farthest west you can go in Memphis. So it's east and north for us. And it wasn't a hard trip. It was very easy, but there's nothing really out there unless you're going to go see it's the replica of Davy Crockett's last home. Now, they used the actual timbers from his house, and it's in the same style, built to look exactly like his house. And then the furnishing insides is from the 1800s. Some of it is from Davy Crockett, but it's been donated. It may not have been original to the cabin.
Which is, it's kind of wild because, so let me set the scene here, and I'll put B-roll. If you're watching the video, I'll put some video footage of our visit there. And the video, of course, will be linked in the show notes if you're listening and you want to watch the video. But we find this location. It took us a little bit to find it because it's kind of off the beaten path, right? Had to, showed up. We didn't know if it was open or not. And there's a sign on the door like, call the county courthouse. So we call the county courthouse, and some guy just drives up in his truck and opens it up for us. And then he basically just kind of lets us go in. There's a little donation box and a guest kind of signature book. And you just get to walk around with whatever. So there's stuff from the 1800s. Like if you had wanted to, I could have sat down on the bed. I could have, we went upstairs and there's the whole kind of loom thing and that they use to weave. And there's all, it's just sitting right there. It's not behind protective cases. It was kind of wild. And the guy just left.
And he just left.
We didn't even realize
left
it.
The door open.
He left the door open. So we just kind of closed it behind us. And, but it was really cool.
It was really cool. And so he's there from 1822 till the fall of 1835. And like you said, he serves 3 terms in Congress, but it's in 1834 that he is voted out of Congress because he comes against Andrew Jackson in the Indian Removal Act. He doesn't think, he opposes that policy. He doesn't think it's right to make the American Indians leave their land. And even though Crockett was an enslaver, he doesn't believe in treating people less than just based on their nationality. So what was interesting is he gets so upset that his home state has kind of turned their back on him that when he hears that Texas is fighting for independence, he's like, I'm going to go. So in the fall of 1835, he goes to the Alamo, and he's there in 1836 when, of course, the Alamo is taken by Santa Anna and he's killed. And there's controversy around what happened at the end of Davy Crockett's life. And what's hard about this is there's primary sources for both. There's primary sources of people who were a part of Santa Anna's group and were a part of the people that they didn't kill that were at the Alamo, some of the servants, that said they found Crockett in a room after killing 16 other men with his knife in another man, hadn't been killed. So he died fighting. Then there was a journal that was found right at the time when that Disney movie came out with Fess Parker in 1955. They found this journal, and the journal said that some people surrendered, and Davy Crockett was one of the surrenderers, and then they were all executed. People claim that wasn't true because it was part of propaganda with the movie coming out. But then recently the papers have been tested and they do date back to 1830.
Oh, really?
So what's hard is Santa Anna says himself that nobody surrendered. So you get Santa Anna's testimony that he said no one surrendered. They take all the bodies of the men and pile them up and put wood on them and burn them all. And then I think it's 2 years later, they someone comes with a coffin and gets the ashes and buries the coffin in a peach orchard close by. Now, there's a coffin at the Alamo that they claim is that coffin and has the ashes inside. But in reality, that coffin was buried and no one knows exactly where it is. But because of that, there's no evidence to support the surrender or the fighting till the death.
Well, let's be realistic. All the evidence we really need is the Disney movie with Fez Parker, right? That's all the evidence we really need. That's how most of us know Davy Crockett, right? So I pulled up, just for our podcast guests, I pulled this little gem up here, and this is the song that we all know.
Born on a mountaintop in Tennessee, greenest state in the land of the free. Raised in the woods, so he knew every tree. Killed him a bar when he was only 3. Davy Crockett, king of the wild.
So that is the Davy Crockett song. I mean, and I remember that as a kid.
I remember that.
And I barely remember watching this show, but I knew the song because, that was kind of like another way to kind of keep that legend going, which was Disney, and Disney did that with a lot of kind of, American stories and stuff like that.
And I tell you this, like, I love that Fez Parker's wearing moccasins, and it's like the kind of moccasins you can buy at the store. It's so great.
Yeah.
But this is the truth of Davy Crockett, is he moves into this storytelling infamy, and he does build his life up. I killed 105 bears at this cabin in Rutherford, Tennessee. I domesticated a bear and he sat with us at the kitchen table. I could grin a bear to death. Like, he told these stories. And it's so much so a play was written about him in 1831 that, again, like you said, how do people get their entertainment at the time? You see these plays, and this play about this frontiersman who's now a politician and what he did for survival and how he lives in Tennessee. It was like he would walk into Congress just in the buckskins, and he did do that to live up this persona. And it was almost like he was like half animal, half man, half domesticated, half buffoon, and he enjoyed that. And so that story about him was really what resonated. And so that's why he felt, I think, so betrayed when he was pushed out of Congress, is he felt betrayed by his people because he had built this persona based on Tennessee.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that we talk about this all the time with kind of legendary people, whether it's people that are in pop culture in some form or fashion, when they die, in some peak moment. For James Dean, he was just super young, but then a rising star. You have the Marilyn Monroes. So you have all these people like this. Now, for Davy Crockett, he was a little bit older. He was probably almost 50 by the time the Alamo happened. But he still was this legend, and then he died in kind of this legendary manner at this legendary battle that was kind of continued on in story and in Americana. That's really what cemented his story, right?
100%.
And we talk about that all the time. So this is just a classic instance of a case like that.
Yeah, he was 49, and the Alamo resonates with people. Remember the Alamo, right? Because this is a rally cry. Texas is going to get its independence, right? And even though the Mexicans have won that battle, this is what rallies everyone to come and fight for Texas's independence. And remember the Alamo becomes that cry. So Davy Crockett moves into infamy. And when you think of the Alamo, he's the most famous one who died there. I mean, you can think of Bowie with the Bowie knife, and there's other people who are there. And if you watch the movie, you're like, oh, okay. But Davy Crockett is the most famous person who's there. And I think his fame is cemented by that death, how he died, fighting for America, someone who served in Congress, someone who fought for America in the War of 1812, and then made their whole life off of living off the American frontier. I mean, it's just, he moves into legend. And so to be able to go to his cabin and sit on his front porch on the rocking chair knowing that he was a storyteller who probably rocked away and whittled and told these stories, it was amazing for me as a historian to be able to do that, growing up on these stories of Davy Crockett.
Yeah, it was awesome. I will say, I mean, if you're interested in visiting, you kind of have to dedicate a visit to it because it's off the beaten path, right? It's not super close to Memphis. It's probably an hour and a half from us. But if you want to make the effort up there, it's kind of neat. I will leave some links in our show notes if you want to go to it, because there's a couple Davy Crockett things that are around Tennessee. Like there's a museum out in Nashville and stuff like that. But I will definitely leave a link to this specific site.
Yeah, I think there's 6 locations to visit for Davy Crockett in Tennessee. One is a county named after him, of course, but he was in East Tennessee. There is a tavern out there. There's a forest out there named for him. But remember, this is his last home, and he lives here 1822 to 1835. So 13 years he's here in West Tennessee, and this is his last home before he leaves for the Alamo. So that's what's significant about this location. There definitely are other places to see associated with Davy Crockett, but this is the last place he will leave from before going to the Alamo. And his mother passes away in this location in 1834, and her grave is also there, right beside the replica of the cabin.
Yep.
So again, there's a lot of Davy Crockett history in this one location, and it was definitely worth the visit. It's there for you. It's available to you. I really thought it was awesome to go see.
Yeah, it was pretty neat. The life and legend of Davy Crockett reached its dramatic climax at the Battle of the Alamo in 1836. Drawn by the promise of a new frontier and the struggle for Texas independence, Crockett's arrival at the Alamo transformed him from a frontier politician into an immortal American hero. In February of 36, Crockett joined fewer than 200 defenders at the Alamo mission in San Antonio, despite facing overwhelming odds against Mexican General Santa Anna's army of thousands. Crockett and his fellow defenders held their ground. According to eyewitness accounts, Crockett's spirit never wavered during the 13-day siege, as he kept morale high with his humor and music, often playing the fiddle for the troops. On March 6th, the Alamo fell to Mexican forces. While accounts of Crockett's final moments vary, the most enduring image is of him fighting to the very end, using his rifle, Betsy, as a club when ammunition ran out. His death at the Alamo transformed Crockett from a popular frontier figure into an American legend, symbolizing courage, independence, and unwavering dedication to principles. Today, Davy Crockett's legacy lives on in countless ways. The 1950s Disney series starring Fez Parker introduced him to new generations, making the Ballad of Davy Crockett a national sensation. His image appears in films, books, and cultural references, while places like the Alamo continue to draw millions of visitors each year who come to honor his memory. Schools, parks, and forests bear his name, and his famous coonskin cap remains one of the most recognizable symbols of the American frontier spirit. Thank you. This has been a Walk with History production. Talk with History is created and hosted by me, Scott Benny. Episode researched by Jennifer Benny. Check out the show notes for links and references mentioned in this episode. Talk with History is supported by our fans at thehistoryroadtrip.com. Our eternal thanks go out to those providing funding to help keep us going. Thank you to Doug Liberty, Larry Myers, Patrick Benny, Gail Cooper, Christy Coates, and Calvin Gifford. Make sure you hit that follow button in that podcast player, and we'll talk to you next time.